Hi everyone, I hope you're all well. Today we're going to be talking about the property market in the UK, looking at whether buy to lets are still worth it, and some of the factors that may affect the profitability of the buy to lets. Now, I've been in property for about a decade now, and I've definitely seen some negative changes, and I've seen a real decline in people doing buy to lets. It's simply because it's not as profitable as it used to be, and this is because of stamp duty changes that have happened or will be happening. Interest rates, especially post COVID, have significantly increased, making borrowing a lot more expensive. There's of course tax changes in corporation tax, in self assessment tax as well. And something that's going to be coming this year is the no fault evictions, which essentially is that if you're a landlord, you will find it hard to evict tenants without there being a valid reason. All these things have had a significant impact in the property market in the past few years. Again, having said that, the property prices this year have increased by around 3.5%. Now, that's good news, but it's also as a result of inflation. Naturally, as the living wage increases, as the cost of goods increase, as rent increases, property prices have increased. Now, for me, is it still worth it? I've definitely slowed down in investing in property. I have, shall I say, taken my money and put it into other investments. But for me, I have aimed at diversifying my investment portfolio just because it's safe for me, and it works for me. I like to try new things and put my money in different things, not just property. I'm not saying that the buy to let business has been completely abolished. All I'm saying is that you really need to make sure your numbers stack up before you make that purchase, and make sure you're getting the best possible price, making sure that you check the area in which you're buying in, check the demand of the rent, of resale. Depending on what your goal is when you're buying, whether you're buying to sell, whether you're buying to rent. My advice is to make sure that you do your research. So some changes that have happened, are going on, are happening, and some things to take into consideration when you're buying or investing, whether it be you're buying your first home, your first investment, or even your second. Maybe it could be your 10th. I don't know. But the stamp duty changes will be coming into effect in the 1st of April, which means that if you're a first time buyer, you're going to be looking at paying more tax, unfortunately. The government wants your money, and you can't say no, unfortunately. So the threshold is going to be changing from 450,000 to 300,000, which means that you have to pay any stamp duty taxes above 300, whereas it used to be from 450. And for second or additional homes, shall I say, that rate will increase by roughly around 2% as well. So it will be more expensive to buy a property. However, something that I like to do, and I have been doing with stamp duties in general, is always making sure I get the best possible price for the property that I'm purchasing, or the offer that I put forward to property. So, if my stamp duties, for example, are going to be totaling £10,000, I'll try my best to get an additional £10,000 off the property, as a way of counteracting that. Because some people don't take this into consideration. You're buying a property 200,000, and if for example there is £5,000 of stamp duties to pay, they don't consider it's going to be 205,000 you're paying. My method is I'll offer 195,000, let's say, so my total price will still be 200,000 with the tax. So I know that I'm not going to be paying any additional on top. So yeah, check out the stamp duty changes, be aware of them, make sure you incorporate them into your spreadsheets, which would be really good. You want to make money at the end of the day, and the stamp duties doesn't help that. So at least make sure you incorporate that into your costs of total cost of purchasing a property. Now, the second thing, which I'm still trying to get my head around, to be honest, is the no fault evictions. Now, fortunately, I don't have any issues with tenants, but you can have a bad tenant. Anyone can have a bad tenant, but you cannot give them a notice to leave without reason now. Whereas before, you could give them what's called a Section 21. So you serve them with a Section 21 and you say, hey, I want my property back. And eventually they will either leave or you'll get the court to evict them. But now with these changes in effect, or will be coming in effect in summer, it means that there has to be a breach of contract for you to do so. So it's going to be really hard for you to get your property back. So please bear this in mind when you're buying property, when you're renting property. Make sure you do your research into your tenants. Everyone wants a good tenant. They all look good from the beginning. They all say everything that you want to hear, and then when they're in the property, they can be a headache. So just do your due diligence on this and make sure that you're ahead of the game, and you're not gonna be having any issues. Moving on, for something that's really slowed me down is the interest rates. Now, during COVID, interest rates were great. When I first invested in property, interest rates were great. I think I took them for granted. Some of the rates I was getting were about between 1.75 and 2.5. Right now, that sounds like a dream, because my latest properties, when they've come up for renewal, they've been in the region of between 4.5 and it is up to 6%. And this really has made my profit margins drop drastically. So my mortgages have doubled. Some of them have even tripled. So again, before you buy, please make sure you check out what sort of interest rates you're able to get. Now, the Bank of England base rate sitting around 4.5%, I believe. This is looking to drop again in March when they have their review. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it is going to drop, and if it's in it, won't mean that they will continue dropping. So they could go up still. Now, there's a lot of predictions to say that by the end of this year, they're looking to drop all the way to 3.5%, which means borrowing is going to be cheaper. But nobody has a crystal ball. I definitely don't have that. And so I'm sitting on the fences at the moment, just watching to see what's going on in the market before I invest. So I am being patient, and I'm just waiting to see what's going to happen this year before I plunge any more money into property. So my recommendation to everyone is just to check out my recommendation to everyone is just to make sure you do your research, you do your due diligence on properties before you buy it. Checking out both how much your stamp duty is going to be, what's the operational cost of the property, how much is home insurance going to be? How much is gas and electricity going to be? How much is your maintenance going to be predicted? Any management fees, any mortgage costs. So you really have to look at everything before you purchase that property and make that offer, because it has to make sense. A lot of people make the mistake, and when I first started out, I definitely made the mistake of not taking all the costs into consideration. So when I ended up renting out my property and all the overheads came out, the gas, the electricity, the maintenance, the management fee, the home insurance, I thought, well, hang on a minute, I thought this was going to be more profitable. So I've streamlined a lot of things now, but I wish I did look into the cost of these things at first, which would have helped me buy better properties at better prices. Again, having said all this, I do think the the property market is still strong, but you have to really be selective in what you purchase, and take into consideration things like the location, the demand for rent. Is there schools nearby? Is there supermarkets nearby? Even having a look at, is there the council's goals, and how they're looking to develop that area, if they're actually looking to do anything. These are some of the things that I check out before I buy a property, so I know that if I'm buying a property in this area, I know that maybe the council are going to build maybe a new school, maybe they're going to do the roads up, anything that will increase the value of the property, maybe increase the demand for rent, which is would be great. Now, for me, it's definitely more long term when I invest in property. Short term, I don't think isn't applicable anymore. By long term meaning, I am looking at the capital growth potential of properties rather than looking to how much money is it going to bring me. Am I going to be able to live off it? Because if I was just living off property income, I don't think that's realistic, to be honest. Unless you've got between 10 to 15 properties at a minimum, I really don't think that's possible. If it is, I'd love to hear about it. But I think that's it for now. I do look forward to doing another video, which I will be doing on a daily basis. So please like and subscribe to hear more.